Jadu Gopal Prabhu, do you have any suggestion for a discussion today?
I was only thinking before I came on, Vishakha, how it is that, you know, if I was asked a question, I don't have a question. And there would have been a time where I would have had loads of questions, but now I generally don't have a question. And what is that? You know, like before Krishna consciousness, I suppose we would have been asking questions, you know, just to try to impress or show what I have, you know, maybe what I think I have. Is it a good and positive sign that there is less questions? Is that a question?
I mean, there's no right or wrong way, but it's true that it may be a mood of surrender, you know, that we just want to serve, you know, we don't have any questions. We just, well, our faith is you know, satisfied, and we simply want to serve, you know. We heard that during the 80s, you know, when when the Westerners started, after the departure of Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, then many Westerners started coming to receive shelter from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and they were full of questions, right? But this was kind of a novelty, because the Indian devotees, they didn't have questions. They were simply, you know, happy to be in the temple and serve, you know, they didn't have questions, you know. But the Westerners came and they were full of questions. But as a result of those questions, so much nectar came out, which Srila Sridhar Maharaj had not previously given, even in Bengali, you know. And so the main wealth of Srila Sridhar Maharaj that's been recorded is in English. And in fact, the Bengali books that we have of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, they've been translated from English. which is very funny, you know. So what can I say? You know, there's no right or wrong, you know. Since questions may also come from a real place of, you know, necessity and sincerity, you know. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's that famous verse in chapter 4, which is describing the qualities of the bona fide spiritual master, you know, guru, and also the qualities of the bona fide sincere disciple, seeker. You know, tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshina. You know, and the qualities of the real bona fide disciple are the three mentioned: pranipatena, pariprashnena, and sevaya. Pranipatena means a mood of surrender, a mood of submission. You know, that we are coming to the feet of Guru, leaving behind our self-seeking tendency in the world, you know, and we are here to accept what is coming from the heart, from the lotus lips of Guru. And then pariprashnena means sincere inquiry. So inquiry is actually mentioned there, you know, as a quality of the sincere disciple. And then sevaya, you know, the mood of service, desire to dedicate oneself, that we are entering into this not for our own personal gain, but we are entering into this out of a sincere desire to serve. You know? And in regards to the spirit of inquiry, you know, Srila Sridhar Maharaj has discussed that a little, and he's mentioned, you know, a sincere question, sincere inquiry. It should come out of some genuine necessity of the heart, you know, some need to consolidate our faith, you know, in order to support develop our faith. We may feel that necessity. And also, if one is in a position of preaching to others or explaining to others, then they may also want clarification on certain points in order to be able to explain better to others. So that type of inquiry is acceptable in the spirit of devotion, on the path of devotion. The danger when it comes to inquiry is that it can come from a place of idle curiosity, this is actually a mental disease that we have, and look at how popular Google is, right? Google's like the go-to for many of us for many little things, and it's kind of, this is one of the dangers of modern technology. It really feeds into our mental tendencies, because it's like every idle thing that comes into our head, we can have instant access, to satisfying that, and or any random whimsical desire that we have, the touch of our fingertips, we can order and have it come from the other side of the world, right? So, but anyway, that spirit of idle curiosity, knowing, we want to know just for the sake of knowing, or we want to know because we want to show off to others that we know, that is not helpful, or know just for the sake of our ego, that is not helpful. So that tendency we have to be, as humans, I'm human, we're all human, so it's inevitable that we have these tendencies. So we want to try to keep them out of the field of our devotional, practice, inner cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Real Krishna consciousness descends to us on a need to know basis. As much as we need to know, that's what will be real in what is extended to us. That's the difference between, just collecting facts and actually like receiving a real transmission of divya gyan, divine knowledge. So every, as Srila Maharaj would say, everything is consciousness. So asking questions or not asking questions, they can both be symptoms of a mood of surrender. It depends on our consciousness. But I like the question. If it's okay to not have questions. And with our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj, Brajamohini Didi knows very well, many devotees, they would mysteriously experience that they, we've had some question in our heart, but we didn't say anything to Gurudev, but he intuitively knew, Kind of, he is nodding her head. I expect she had that experience. It was a very mystical, exchange that took place. And actually, what you said, it reminded me of a story that Trivikram Maharaj told me, because you said how sometimes we may have that mood of asking questions just to show off, right? That like the quality of your question indicates your own level, right? To some extent. So if we're asking a particular caliber of question, it shows, we have a particular level of understanding, right? And so Trivikram Maharaj, he told me how he asked Gurudev a question once, and he said in his humility that he was asking Gurudev because he was with some other Brazilian devotees, and he said, I wanted to show off to them, I don't think it was exactly like that, but that was his humility. So I wanted to show off, like I knew something, I had a very intelligent question. And so he asked Gurudev the question. And Gurudev didn't answer. You know, sometimes Gurudev would be like that. You know, he wouldn't Gurudev wouldn't necessarily entertain, you know, all of our random questions. You know, and so anyway, Gurudev didn't answer in that moment. He just looked at Trivikram Maharaj, you know, and then Trivikram Maharaj left, and you know, some time went by, and you know, this is churning and churning within Trivikram Maharaj, and he's, you know, thinking it over and feeling very bad, like, oh, I was just asking out of my ego, you know, to show off I know something. And so he decided to apologize to Gurudev. So he went in later, and he told Gurudev, oh, please excuse me, Gurudev, you know, I asked a very bad question. And then Gurudev said, no, it was a good question. and he said, I didn't answer. I didn't respond because you already know the answer. And then Trivikram Maharaj was a little taken aback. I already know the answer? What is he talking about? And he said, very mystically, the answer came to him. You know, he felt this like download, this revelation. And not only that, but he said not only one answer or two, but multiple answers, like so many different angles in which the question could be answered, you know. It all came flooding into his consciousness by Srila Gurudev's grace. You know? So that was one mystical experience he had in regards to asking questions.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, please.
I have a question that probably is very practical because that happens many times. I was watching a video from Srila Guru Maharaj, and he was explaining about the progress in spiritual life is about acceptance and elimination. And at the end of that video, he said that normally we say, God save me from my enemies, but also say, God save me from my friends, because sometimes we have a bad association. So my question is regarding this. Sometimes when we associate with a person who is have more knowledge that we have, but after a while we see that that person has some material motives, or they have something that we don't want the association anymore. So my question is, how come that the person who supposedly be more advanced, because he said maybe a sannyasi, maybe disciple of Srila Prabhupada, they have a many more experience, they don't see their own fault, and other person that we are in lower position, we see that. How that is possible? Maybe you can explain a little more about that, please.
You're saying that normally we expect senior devotees, senior in the sense of having been longer in Krishna consciousness, that we expect them to be more advanced than us, but sometimes we feel that they have less realization.
Well, it can be no actually less realization, but sometimes you see some material motives, something that we don't want the association of that person anymore, but the person thinks that he's still doing right, but in our position we see like it's not so well, and we try to avoid the association anymore. We try to eliminate that and advance somewhere else. But my question is, how come a person that supposedly have, I don't know, maybe like 40, 50 years in the movement, they have a better position, more experience, and then they have some material motive, or they want some pratista or something like that. They don't see it in themselves, but personally in a lower position, they see that. Maybe you can explain a little more how that is possible. Or maybe it's an offense that we commit to that person. It's not really something that is wrong.
Well, I mean, first of all, the ability to perceive, I mean, it's a very nice question. This is a very nice in-depth, it's a serious question about our practicing life. So it's a nice, and it's practical. I love practical questions. But first of all, we have to remember that the ability to perceive our own faults, that's actually a result of mercy. That requires divine grace, for us to be able to perceive our own lacking, And Srila Sridhar, she quotes this verse, right? Oma Yana Timinandasya Gyananjana Shalake. That's what this verse is saying. That I was blind, I was in darkness, but my Guru Maharaj, he's opened my eyes, So in the same way, we are covered in so many anarthas. There's one expression of Srila Saraswati Thakur where he says, I am so honeycombed with faults. Think of a honeycomb, like how many of those, pores are there in a honeycomb. And he says, I'm so honeycombed with faults. I don't have time to look at the faults of others, but to have that type of feeling, and look at the expressions of the great Vaishnavas, it's painful, right? To read them, to hear them, because they express their of course, in their case, it's different because they don't actually have any faults, but is an expression of divine humility. But in any case, it is a form of grace to be able to perceive, to be able to perceive where we're going wrong, and then to see how we can go past that. That's mercy, to be able to see that. And mercy doesn't care about, time frame. Mercy doesn't care, about how long you've been practicing Krishna consciousness. Just like in our relationships in this world, right? Feelings of love, affection, mercy, they don't depend on how long you've known someone, but they need to touch your heart, right? So in the same way, period of time, that's not a factor in whether or not we can be the recipient of divine grace. And another thing is that if we are not practicing properly, then the amount of time we've been practicing can actually work against us, because one thing that can happen, and this is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that one danger is that, Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Dev, he uses that analogy. Everybody knows, comparing the Bhakti Lata Bij, the seed of devotion, seed of faith. He compares faith to a seed, right? And then the analogy is given, right, of watering that, we have to water, we have to nourish that devotion in the same way that we may nourish a seed that we've planted in our garden, right? And then we're given warning about different obstacles that may arise. And one of the analogies given is of weeds, right? That weeds can sprout in your garden and they can take all the nutrients away, right? And so in the same way, in our devotional practicing life, then, different anarthas, they will come to the surface and we will have to face them. And so one interesting point which is mentioned there is that what can happen in our practice is that we, instead of watering the seed of devotion, we're actually watering the weeds of our anarthas. So we can be performing many practices, but actually be going further away from the spirit of devotion. You know, and we can think of some examples. You know, one point is that as a result of our devotion, whatever little, you know, fragrance, shadow of devotion that we have, as a result of that, then, you know, particular benefits may come to us. You know, one thing is fame, right? If we have a particular mood of devotion, if we have, you know, particular mood of enthusiasm for spiritual life, if we are very active in our service life, that begins to attract attention, right? You know, other devotees, they'll start to praise us. You know, we may become, you know, we may become a leader within our community, local or, you know, wider community, international community. You know, we might end up on television. You know, we may become increasingly famous as a result of whatever devotion we have. You know, then what happens? You know, then it's easy to get sidetracked, right? It's easy to get distracted, and we can become more focused on posting the Instagram photo of all the service we did rather than actually doing the service. You know, we can start to, you know, deviate like that. You know, another thing is that, you know, Bhakti Devi, she attracts the resources of this world. You know, so, you know, Lakshmi, Gurudev has mentioned, Lakshmi likes to serve devotion. You know, so that can also happen, that money will come to the devotee. You know, and then what happens? Then will that money be used only for service, or will that devotee become distracted and begin taking that money for their own purpose? You know, or another thing that can happen is one gets attention from the opposite sex. You know, there may be, you know, beautiful men or women who are attracted by that devotee's mood of devotion, and then that can also be a distraction. You know, and, you know, these are, I'm not talking about, you know, obscure things. These are things that we've all seen happen, right? I'm sure we can all think of an example of how things went in this direction, you know. So, but, you know, this can also be taking place. I'm kind of mentioning an example of more prominent persons, but it can happen to all of us on a lower scale, you know. No, another thing is our ego can come into play, you know, that we are doing a lot of service, but then we get some pride because of that, or we're doing a lot of chanting. Let's say every day we're chanting our 16 rounds. Then we may become a little proud. Oh, I'm chanting 16 rounds every day, you know, and maybe we'll tell all of our friends, so how many rounds are you chanting every day? I'm chanting my 16 rounds every day. What about you? I've got my ticket back to Godhead, you know. Or I distributed 30 books today, you know, and I got a few $100s, you know. Then our ego can grow, you know. Srila Govinda Maharaj, he told one very nice Bengali expression. And I think he said Srila Saraswati Thakur originally used it, but that you've milked a cow. This is like a Bengali farmer's example. You know, you've milked your cow, you've got your pot of milk. What happens? One drop of the cow urine enters into that milk. And then what happens? The whole thing becomes spoiled. One drop of cow urine, you've got this big, beautiful pot of pristine milk. One drop of cow urine, the whole thing is spoiled, you know. And so Gurudev used that analogy for pratishta, prestige, you know, pride, you know, that we may have many beautiful qualities, we may have many auspicious qualities in devotion, and we may have some degree of real devotion. And we may be doing many wonderful things for the service of Guru and Gauranga, but then some drop of pride comes, and then it all becomes spoiled, you know. There's a very nice analogy that Mahaprabhu gives when he's, you know, there's that famous pastime with the Digvijay Pandit, Keshava Kashmiri, very proud, great scholar. And he has the blessings of Goddess Saraswati. And so he's very brilliant as a result. And so he's a brilliant scholar, but he's spoiled by this pride. And Mahaprabhu gives his mercy to him by defeating him in debate. And then afterwards, Mahaprabhu gives him some words of advice. And he tells him, he gives this very nice analogy where he says a very qualified person, you know, someone who is blessed with many great qualities, they should present themselves like a tree that has many fruits. You know, if you look at a tree with many fruits, you see it is hanging low. Is that it's so heavy with the weight, you know, of what it is carrying. So he said that is the true mood of a you know, a real qualified person. You know, they will carry themselves with some humility, you know, feeling the weight of what they are holding. You know? So that is the thing, you know, that someone may become developed in devotion. Someone may become very capable in performing many devotional activities, and one may be practicing for many, many years. But if they're falling into some of these pitfalls, then we have to ask the question, how much are they actually progressing? You know, and in the real sense, how much are they actually progressing? There's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bahu Janma Kori Jadi Nam Sankirtan, but it's saying that one may be chanting the name from Bahu Janma, means many lifetimes, and prema will not arise within their heart. You know why? Because their chanting is mixed with some offense. So it is not a matter of time. It is not a matter of activity even. You know, but the inner spirit that's being cultivated, you know, that's what is the determining factor. There's also that famous verse that Srila Sridhar Maharaj likes to quote, you know, that Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavitamati Priyatam Jadi Kutopi Labhyate Tatra Lolyam Api Mulyam Ekalan, Janma Koti Sukriter na Labhyate. I think many of you know that verse. It's Lolyam, our hunger, our desire, our hankering. That's the only determining factor. And it says, you know, what is it? Krishna Bhakti Priyatam Jadi Kito Labhyate. But anyway, it mentions there that you know, millions of lifetimes of pious activity, they won't give you this. They won't give you real Krishna consciousness. Tachololiam apimulyam ekalam. Janma koti. Janma koti means thousands, millions of lifetimes. Janma koti sukriter na labhyate. Sukriter referring to pious activity. Na labhyate. You won't get it. So we can be going through the motions and ticking all the boxes, you know, lifetime after lifetime. But if that inner mood, you know, that real desire is not arising, real attraction is not arising as a result of our offenses, you know, then we won't get it. You know, we won't get it. So it is a sad thing, but it is also cautionary, you know, for us to consider for ourselves, you know, that we have to really consider, do we really want it or not? You know, do we want to show to others we have it, or do we really want to have it? You know, there's also one comment of Guru Dev in Revealed Truth that comes to mind, where he's speaking about, you know, humility, tolerance, and respect. And he says, someone may be practicing for 30 years, but if they have not developed these qualities, then they don't have anything, actually. You know, someone may be able to tell us, oh, I did this and I did that, and I've been practicing for 50 years. But where is the mood of doinya? Where is the mood of humility? That is the real tendency of the Vaishnava. So, okay, you did all of that, but you're lacking what the result should have been. You missed the point. You missed the whole point, you know. All of that activity, it should have brought you to a feeling of Trinada Pisunichena, but you don't have that. So what was the point of it all? And then somebody may join yesterday. They may be more ahead. That's the truth of it. You know, they may be more ahead because they've really captured what the essence of this is, you know. And you know, I'm saying all of this in a mood of, you know, for our own education, you know. We're not discussing this so we have a stick to beat, right? You know, that's another danger, right? That we criticize someone, but then we're putting ourselves in the same position, right, that they are in. You know, we criticize someone for their ego, but then we are also putting ourselves in a negative position. We don't want to lose our own spirit of devotion in observing others' lack of devotion, right? So we're only discussing this in a spirit of self-correction, you know, so that, and then also, you know, as you said, we want to be careful about our association. And so if we're not too sure about someone, you know, if they're displaying some of these things that we've discussed, then we may decide it's better for me to take a step back from them. But we will still give them the respect that they want. You know, we won't lose anything by doing that. But we will try to, you know, stay away. We will avoid a close relationship, a close, you know, association with them. You know, and we will try to learn for ourselves. You know, sometimes, you know, these things can be helpful examples of what not to do, right? we can take it like that, you know. So does that address your points, Peru?
Yes, very nice with your explanation. Actually, that happened to me at least 3 times in my life with Saint Joseph, the Buddhist disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And one of them was my own guru. That was in 1981, about that. He left the association of the devotees in the temple, and that was very painful. And that happened to me with another 2 Saint Joseph of Srila Prabhupada. I have the association, and then I saw deviation and, you know, I commit offenses to other Vaishnavas, so I have to get out from that association. It's looking, maybe it's even more normal than people think, but sometimes we have like a discriminate, you know, like a see what's going ahead and trying to upset and eliminate things. So sometimes we have to do, that's the progress in spiritual life. But I wanted to hear from you, what is your opinion? Because you say, I don't know if I am making offenses to other person when I see something wrong, or maybe actually is something that is wrong with that the body, and we have to get out of the association and advancing another way.
Yeah, you know, they're like one end of the spectrum, there's the mood of criticism, right? But the other end of the spectrum, there can be too much whitewashing, right? And that's also not so helpful for us, you know? There's a healthy middle path, you know? we are not Uttam Adhikaris. The Uttam Adhikar Vaishnav, they see everyone is perfect. They see Krishna's everywhere. Everything's moving according to Krishna's will. But it's not helpful for us to imitate an Uttam Adhikar, right? And we even hear how Srila Sridhar Maharaj mentions how for a Vaishnava to act as guru, even if they are on the Uttam Adhikar platform, they have to descend to the Madhyam platform. Because in the Madhyam platform, there is discrimination, what is right and what is wrong. And so in order to instruct their disciples, they have to make discrimination, And so we also, there's that famous verse, and I think it's in the Ishopanishad, saying that a true student on the path, they need to develop their understanding of both the spiritual side and the material side, right? I think you probably know that verse. We need to know what to do. We also need to know what not to do. We need to know what's good, and we need to know also what's bad. We are living within a relative world, where we see black and white. So we cannot pretend otherwise, and for us to progress, we need to have discrimination, but there's healthy discrimination and there's unhealthy discrimination. So, and another thing is, very, strange, twisted syndromes can come out of pretending everything's okay, right? It's, how many weird things have happened in organizations because, everyone said, oh, no, this is normal. This isn't normal. Let's just call a spade a spade. I can forgive them. I can still love them. I can still work with them. But I also need to recognize this is not okay. This is weird. This is wrong. I heard one very extreme story from Devi Shish Prabhu, and this was at a, well, we won't say which organization, but in one temple of one organization, very strange events where the temple president, he ended up falling in love with this very beautiful, wealthy lady. He became so infatuated with her, but she wouldn't give up eating meat. And so he ended up eating meat as well because of her. And it got to a point where they were serving chicken in the temple. It just went weirder and weirder and weirder. And then finally, and this was in the, okay, well, I have to say it was with ISKCON, but this was in the time of Srila Prabhupada. And then finally Srila Prabhupada heard about it, and he chastised the members of the temple. Of course, he had to chastise that man, but also the devotees, what were you thinking? How could you go along with this, And they said, oh, well, he was our temple president, and we thought we have to follow and accept whatever he does, Srila Prabhupada was, very unhappy. How can you be so foolish? You should have some degree of discrimination. You cannot just blindly go along with anything, So yeah, we want to try to be, forgiving and so on. And we don't want to be overly judgmental, but we also need to recognize, have some clarity as to what is wrong. We're not going to go and, crucify them, we're not going to publish an announcement on the front page of the newspaper, criticizing them, but we need to have some clarity, and depending on how serious it is, then we may need to inform others about it as well, otherwise things can become, very, very twisted, and we're just going off into some particular shade of the Mayic energy,
You explained it very nicely. Thank you so much. And I remember also the Sila Guru Maharaj said that the same as it says blind faith, we have to be seeing faith. So we have to see where we're going and find that if something is wrong, try to get out of that way and go somewhere. That's what I try to do in my life. But I see so many times that happen. And sometimes it's painful, no? But we have to get out and that way and go ahead. Try to go in another way. Respectfully, no? I don't try to disrespect anybody because all the time, all of them are Vaishnava, but they have some issues, no? That we have to see. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so happy you raised this topic. You know, these are like kind of like real life on the ground issues, right? In Krishna consciousness. So I'm happy you raised these issues, and I also appreciate your comments. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to say, what was it? Oh, just that you know, at the same time, we will try to be optimistic, you know, that, okay, right now, as you said, I may respectfully have to distance myself, but we also want to see the situation with some positive vision, and we want to have hope, you know, in the future. You know, they're also on their path, you know. Krishna, he can come and correct them if he wants, you know. So maybe not this lifetime, maybe in another lifetime, you know. So we also want to have that kind of positive vision, you know, and things can change, you know. Srila Sridhar Maharaj also mentions that, you know, he mentions in one place how some practitioners, they may do better in the earlier stages of Krishna consciousness, and then when they progress to another level, they don't do so well. And he said it can also be the opposite, you know, can be like a slow learner, you know, or like you see that in school, some of the students sometimes, right? Some students, they do very well in the early years, but then in later life and later education, they're not very successful. And the other way around, you know, we hear of like some like great thinkers, geniuses, they did terrible at school, you know, but then later on, they showed so much brilliance. So also it can be like that, you know. So we don't know exactly like what stage someone is at, where they are, you know, at what rate they're progressing, you know. Only Guru and Gauranga, they have that inside view, you know, they have that big picture. So we'll also be careful to, you know, reserve judgment. Gurudev would often say, you know, like, we don't know who is a Vaishnava. And he mentions also in Revealed Truth how difficult it is, you know. And he mentions one prayer, you know, saying that, you know, I'm very unfortunate because I cannot recognize, you know, who is a Vaishnava. But if the Vaishnavas are merciful to me, they will reveal themselves to me, you know. They will reveal themselves to me. But in the meantime, we can be careful, you know. And if we are not sure, as Gurudev would say, we can give our dandavat from a distance, you know, like that. So, yeah, very nice topics. And we've had a few others have joined us. See, Nahush is with us today. Also, Chintamani Devi joined us. Krishna Mohini Didi in Spain. Dandavat. Rukmini, Nalachua, Florida. And Ajay Krishna Prabhu, I think in London.
Dandavat.
Is that you, Prabhu, in London?
I'm actually not in London.
Are you in Hungary?
I'm in Hungary, yes.
You didn't tell me.
Finally, we're both at the same place.
Look, we have some special visitors here from Ireland.
Oh, fantastic. Dandavat Pranam.
You know Kanu Priya Didi and Soumya Sham and Vijayananda. They're visiting us. If you can visit us this week,
sure I will.
Nice, you can join. programs?
I'll be there in a couple of days. So definitely.
Okay, yeah, please
will.
keep in touch. Keep
Absolutely,
in touch.
yes. Dandavad.
Dandavad, dear Vishakha Didi.
Rukmini, Dandavad, how are you?
Good, thank you. Is this going to be the new schedule? Is going to be on Tuesdays, the class?
Yeah, it just changed. I think 2 weeks ago, just recently.
Oh, I see.
Because I'm sorry you didn't hear, but yeah, because Madhusudan Maharaj had to move one of his meetings to Monday, and so some of the devotees wanted to go to both meetings, so we decided to move this to Tuesday. So yeah, this is the new time. And
but
also
the meeting with Madhusudan Maharaj is the BB back to.
He does a few meetings. This is one it's for the London, UK devotees.
Understand. Okay.
And he was doing it, I think, on Saturdays, right? And now it's changed to Mondays.
Yes,
So,
I kind of lost because it's just like the new time.
You locked on kids there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, no, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I'm going to be like on Tuesdays now, aware about a class. Thank you.
Yeah, same time Tuesdays. And also we have to mention, we are sad we've lost Chinmoy Prabhu as our host just this week, because he's got a job now and he has to a 9 to 5 job. And so unfortunately, it's been like at least a year, I think, he's been hosting this. So we feel very sad that he won't be able to join us. He always had, very wonderful comments to add and insight, and also topics he would suggest. So we're definitely going to miss him. But at the same time, all is not lost. We're very honored that Brajamohini Didi is now going to be hosting. And for those of you who don't know her, she's one of the pillars of our Gurudev's mission, very dear daughter of our Gurudev, and one of the leading devotees in the field of preaching, and always bringing devotees to our mission, to our teachings of our gurus. She's now at our ashram in Soquel, and she's also involved with the communities in Salt Lake City and Austin, Texas. I mean, most of you already know her, of course, but for anyone who doesn't. So we're very happy and honored that we can have Brajamohini hosting.
I have to try to live up to all those things that you said, because I don't feel any of those things, but grateful to be able to be here in your association, Vishakha, and all these beautiful devotees here in your company. So happy I can be of service in some small way. Thank you.
Jai Brajamohini. Well, we have a few minutes. Does anyone want to share any last words or any, maybe something to think about for next week or anything at all?
I just have another small question about the class.
Yeah, sure.
Are we going to receive the same link? It's the same
link. It's the same link. Yeah.
Okay. So she's going to send it by Bhakti Connect.
Well, you're muted.
Are you on, Rukmini, are you on WhatsApp? Do you get the WhatsApp messages?
Yes, I'm on the WhatsApp group. I just want to make sure that I receive them, because it's just like it's just like so nice to have this opportunity to hear those classes. For me, I'm just stuck home, so it is very, very important.
So Didi, Chinmoy's still sending out the WhatsApp a message for this particular class, But I know that Vishakha, you're also giving classes on other days that he doesn't always post on Bhakti Connect on the WhatsApp. So Rukmini, if you want to know about those other ones, I think Chintamani Didi just she posts some of those other ones. Vishakha, do you want to mention those other dates and times? Is that something you want to
Yeah,
do, or-
sure. Yeah, well, on Tuesdays we have this meeting, and then Wednesdays we have a Prapana Jivanamrita class, and the Prapana Jivanamrita one is 9:30 California time.
So
And,
that would be 12:30 Rukmini.
Yeah,
on
that would be
Wednesday.
great. Yes, okay. Oh, so nice.
And
And
then
then Thursday we have a meeting which is focused on newcomers, so it's at an introductory level, and Chintamani Devi hosts that, and then we also have a ladies meeting on Fridays, which everyone's welcome to, and so Chintamani can share. She's posted there in the chat. You can join a group there where she.
I
Everything.
think that's the Bhakti Net group where those other ones are posted. So Rukmini, maybe you can get on that Chintamani's Bhakti Net and she can send you those links for those other classes.
Is that another group?
Chintamani's doing that group. Yeah, I mean, some of them, I suppose we can just share on Bhakti Connect as well. But anyway, that's how at the moment, how those links are being shared.
Okay. I'll try to connect.
Did you
with
look?
Simon.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, anything else? Should we close there today? Well, it's been a very nice meeting. Any of our Vaishnavas here want to add anything? I will just share a good piece of news that Kanupriji found a very beautiful place suitable for an ashram, and probably she'll be signing some papers this week. So we ask for everyone's blessings and goodwill that the project here can move forward. Yeah.
Is it in Budapest or near Budapest or?
It is in Budapest, and it's about 15 minutes from the center. So
15 minutes from the center. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just enough out of the city so you don't feel like you're in the middle of the city, but it's close enough that it's easy to get to.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
nice.
and Kanakri has made a lot of sacrifice, for this to happen.
Gosh.
So she's a beautiful example for all of us. Okay, well, I guess we'll stop there, and my gratitude to all of you for your good company and good discussion, and forward to time. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, all the assembled devotees ki Jai, all the world devotees ki Jai, Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan ki Jai, Jai Gaur Premanande.
Haribo.
Jai Shri Vishakha Didi ki Jai.
Jai.
Yeah.